Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. Did you think I forgot? No, I didn't forget. As I've been saying here and there, I have some content that's a little bit backlogged. So we're gonna kind of backtrack, we're gonna keep up on some of the content I haven't yet posted for some of the previous EZAs that have dropped. Not that LR Full Power Frieza or Nameku are old at this point, but of course we're now in part 2. We're getting closer to the banners dropping for part 2. But there's still some content I need to catch up on and some content I still want to cover. So we still got some backlogged videos to do and I still want to cover them. But yeah, I'm finally taking EZA Nameku into some content. I know, people have used him in the likes of Cell Max event and, also the likes of Red Zone, which is fine. He's capable in Red Zone. The only thing is he's just not reliable enough. So while, don't get me wrong, I've actually attempted a few runs at using him in Red Zone, if his medium chance to guard, which I really wish they bumped up to high, but I think the only reason why they didn't do that was because he stacked defense, but it still would have been very useful if he did, like, very, very useful. However, because he only has a medium chance to guard, and in Red Zone, you just don't have enough time to stack up enough where this guy, out of just pure defense, is going to be enough to tank, even some of the weaker side supers. It just makes him so unreliable in Red Zone. But then on the other hand, if that medium chance, if that 30% chance to guard does come off after you've been stacking for a while, he can be amazing in the hardest content in the game. Like, easily, he can be so good. On the other side of the coin, he can also be terrible and get absolutely battered. So, while I do think he is viable in harder content, and I am going to keep attempting taking him into stuff like Red Zone, which I kind of come to terms with Red Zone of, like, if I get the videos done in, like, as quick as I want them to, then fantastic. If I don't, then that's just pretty much the way the cookie crumbles, because as I said, the most annoying thing about doing Red Zone content is if you get unlucky, or if Nameku's case, if we also get unlucky, if his guard doesn't come off, that's it, run's done. And if that one run doesn't click for multiple parts of the run, and including mainly for him, his guard being active when I need it, that's it, we're dead. And that means there's a run done. That 3 attempt cap makes doing videos on Red Zone such a pain. So I've kind of come to the conclusion, as I said, when the video gets done, it gets done, and it's kind of out of my hands pretty much. Of, as I said, if the run just doesn't click, if I get super unlucky, if I get unlucky specifically with Nameku, this applies to other units as well in future that aren't as reliable and as good in Red Zone as some of the best. For example, Cooler, LR Tech SSJ Goku, especially with Nameku as well being unreliable with the medium chance to guard. Like, instead of like just not doing the video, or instead of whatever else, the video essentially will happen when it happens, and the only annoying thing about that is it may lose some relevancy going forward. It's not exactly within the celebration, or exactly within the time period, or the first part, the second part, whenever the content drops, that I want to get it out as quickly as possible. It may not be in the realms of that. But as I said, I've kind of come to the conclusion of just when that video happens, when everything clicks in like a Red Zone run. And as I said, this is made even more difficult because of the whole 3 attempts at Red Zone a day thing. So if it doesn't happen in 3 attempts, I have to wait until the next day anyway. The video has to be put on hold. It's pretty much when I get it done, when it happens, is when I'll put up the video, and I'll just have to kind of accept it that way. Which is kind of annoying. As I said, I would like to get some content out, at the most relevant point of it dropping in Dokkan. But when it comes to it, it just kind of comes to it. Like, I've even seen people use him in Cell Max event, and while a lot of the units around him in the categories he goes on are able to handle it, and again, this is another one, he's not able to stack up there long enough because of how easy the first 2 phases are. So if his guard doesn't come off in Cell Max, he is dead. Like, he is murdered. Like, he is dead. So it's one of those things. It's not reliable enough to be taking him into those events. The majority of the time. But as I said, if you do get lucky, if the RNG does sway in your favor and his medium chance to guard comes off while you've been stacking his defense, he's viable there. But in literally, not even a coin toss chance, a 30% chance. But on the other side of the coin, if the guard doesn't come off while you've been stacking, he can get absolutely destroyed. Like, he will get obliterated. So that's the only thing with this Nameku. Like, I know of a high chance to guard, it still would have been relatively the same, just, you know, with an extra 20% chance to do so. But, you know, it's just that simple maths of a 50% chance is better than a 30% chance. So while it's not guaranteed, it's still a lot better than a 30% chance to guard. But we actually finally have Goku on rotation. Finally on the rotation I want him with, which is a great setup with the LR Tech SSJ Goku, of course. 77% HP or above, this guy's guarding, stacking defense. This guy, once he transformed, will be stacking defense. And then this rotation just ends up becoming an absolute brick wall. You know, this is kind of like his ideal rotation. More so when he transforms into a Super Saiyan, of course. But both of them are stacking defense. This is basically Nameku's bread and butter event, where he gets the chance to stack for the majority. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to transform yet, but I kind of haven't really been supered on a unit that will take that much damage. But this is essentially his bread and butter with one of his most ideal rotations, and you can also have this on the 200% category lead. Of course, I am on the 170 because, you know, otherwise I'll just absolutely obliterate the Vegeta event, as I'm kind of already doing, but it would be a lot quicker. But I said, this is a really good rotation for him, and I just wish his chance to guard was high rather than medium. Again, it's not even guaranteed, but I said an extra 20% chance to guard, a 50% chance to guard is better than a 30% chance to guard. It's just simple maths. The maths is mathing. Like, it's simple. Unfortunately, I didn't want to give it to him, but yeah, that rotation is such a good rotation. I'm going to try slow down a little bit, but it doesn't look like that's probably going to happen. But as I said, you've got LR Tech SSJ Goku in slot 1 with his guard with 77% more HP. He's stacking his defense the entire time. Even if you die, or, you know, you force the revive to come off, you hit the revive, he will guard at all times, which is perfect. He's still stacking his defense. He defends even better once he gets hit and he gets the additional, what is it, attack and defense plus 59% or just defense plus 59%. Then Nameku can chill in slot 2, can avoid all the unnecessary damage. Once you get him transformed into a Super Saiyan, which right now has been relatively difficult, but, you know, once you get him transformed into a true Super Saiyan, he's going to be stacking his defense the entire time, which is fantastic. And then you just have a very bulky rotation that is good to go. And a Goku and Vegeta event, even though I've stated this so many times, they're becoming quite outdated. They're not really that much of a challenge for a lot of the new EZAs or EZAs on Dokkan Fest, the new units that are dropping, new LRs that are dropping, LRs that are getting EZAs. Since they're quite outdated for some of the more better units in the game, this is still his bread and butter event. You know, this is still his bread and butter event where he can stack the entire time. Unfortunately, I'm only going to be able to start stacking now. But this is his bread and butter, where he gets to stack up the entire time, build his defense as much as possible. And I said, he has such a good rotation for it. As you can see here, links almost perfectly with the LR Tech SSJ Goku. The only important link he's missing is Z Fighters, but you can get that off of like an Ultimate Gohan. Linked almost perfectly with this guy. As I said, this guy's got guard. They're both stacking defense. It's an amazing rotation. And if his medium chance to guard comes off for the Nameku, even better, because you're taking no damage whatsoever. So he's only just transformed, but he still has almost 200k defense on a 170 lead team, which is very nice. Of course, mine is rainbowed as well. But I'm going to put him in slot 1, because I'm going to see if his guard is going to come off. And if his guard is coming off, fantastic, because then he's going to be tanking for nothing, especially if he's supered. Is his guard active? His guard is not active. But he's still taking double digits and triple digits before he even supers. That's because he has almost 200k defense, sorry, at the start of turn. And he hasn't even started stacking yet, because it's taken him so long to finally transform. But look at the damage, though. The damage. And I think going forward, because Goku and Vegeta event are quite dated for like the more, as I said, the more recent like Dokkan Fest EZAs, the newer units, newer LRs and LR EZAs, I think I'm going to take a new unit and a new EZA into one of them. I don't think I'm going to take them into both. I think I'm going to always take them into one or the other, because they're pretty much the same in kind of difficulty. It just depends on what the unit is kind of capable of and the typing. You know, of course, SSBE, AGL, of course, Nameku has type disadvantage. He also lowers defense, which this is a guy that stacks and also has a medium chance to guard. We can see how he does there. Whereas, like, for example, if he was a tech type, I probably would have taken him into the GT Goku event, because, you know, otherwise when you take him up against SSBE, he's got type advantage, he's got a literal advantage. It's going to be slightly more easy for him. And plus, taking them into both, as I said, they're kind of relatively the same depending on what type of the unit is and kind of what their kit is. So I think from now on, I'm going to take units into one or the other, depending on which one's more difficult. Because if they can handle the more difficult one, they should obviously definitely be able to handle the easier one for them. So I think the only thing with the GT Goku event is, of course, you have the Great Ape phase, which can be quite difficult. But this is mainly for units like, as I said, the Dokkan Fest EZAs, the kind of creme de la creme EZAs, the new units. I think I'm going to choose the harder event and take them in there. It's just a shame that these two events have become so outdated in terms of kind of testing and showcasing units out in a longer event. Because I said, this is a longer event. This is EZA Nameku's bread and butter. And it is. It really is. But because also his damage has been updated, I mean, he's done a 6 million attack stat, also hit a crit of 4 mil. You know, he's still getting to stack the entire time, and he's just going to breeze through it. He's going to do a lot of damage against them, as you've already seen again with that 6 mil attack stat, 4 mil crit. If we got to transform him a bit quicker, like I could have made the team weaker, but this is naturally what you would probably bring in here. You know, depending on some units you have or may not have, you may swap some out. But yeah, he would have been stacking a lot longer. He wouldn't be taking hardly any damage. He would be chilling in slot 2 while the LR Tech SSJ Goku has guard in slot 1 and stacking. I said that's kind of the perfect rotation for him. They're both defensive beasts. Except, unfortunately, as I said, EZA Nameku is a little less reliable on that department than, of course, the LR Tech SSJ Goku. But it's still a possibility. He's up to 200k defense right now. So, you know, the next phase is SSB, so, you know, it's definitely going to be even more of a challenge for him, considering we're not going to have that much defense. We are not going to have that much defense. And of course, another good rotation you can do, he's actually, to be fair, he's got type of Advantage anyway, so it doesn't really matter here, but another good rotation you can do, especially if you don't have the LR Tech SSJ Goku, is Nameku. Nameku may not have guard, but Nameku also stacks. The LR Nameku stacks. And prior to transforming, of course, they link. This is a transforming Nameku, so they will link once he transforms. And once again, they're both stacking. The only thing is, when it comes to like harder content, like the premium harder content, like Red Zone, you don't have enough time to stack up both of them. Especially with Strength Nameku, you know, needing to transform first. But that's also another good alternative rotation you could run. But the LR Tech SSJ rotation is just so good. It's so good. Because of how just so defensively solid it is. But at least when his guard is active, EZA Nameku, he will also guard for 4 turns, which is nice. And he'll have a critical hit for 4 turns as well, on top of the fact he's rainbowed, could get an additional and also crit on that, which means he's doing some pretty nice damage in 1 turn. But as I said, we've kind of just been breezing through this. As I said, he's barely stacked up, because it took us so long to transform him, so he's going in against SSB with only like just over 200k defense, which is not enough. So we need to avoid some super attacks, or if he does get supered, we're going to need EZA Nameku to be getting that guard active. We're going to be needing that guard active. Because if it isn't, we're probably going to be taking quite a lot of damage, and he's going to have his defense load, which he's hardly built up. But this is also another benefit of bringing LR Tech SSJ Goku here, because he's been stacking, he's got his guard. To be fair, he hasn't even got 300k defense, but he has type advantage and guard. So that is, of course, a major benefit in his kind of area. I said it's such a good rotation. We actually have more defense than I thought we do. We have over 250k defense, which is fantastic, but I said we're going to have to be careful on a super. I haven't even used an item yet. That is mainly because of how good the units are nowadays. EZA nowadays, like the standard of EZAs have raised, they've gone up. And as I said, these events have just become quite outdated. They really have. But as I said before, I do really want to use EZA Nameku in like Red Zone and stuff. It's just, you know, with the 3 attempt cap a day, you know, if the run doesn't come off, if you get really unlucky, you know, this is even before Nameku himself kind of becomes a factor. Double digits on basics. He's actually guarding, so I mean, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want from him. You know, the run may go unlucky, the wrong unit gets supered, you know, things like that. The run just might not go your way, the rotations might be a mess before you even start, things like that. And then you include Nameku in those factors. And if he isn't guarding on some of the stages, on some of the phases, because they do so much damage, if he isn't guarding, he will take so much damage. If not, worse comes to worse, which is very possible that this happens, he will get you killed. And it's so unfortunate because, as I said, it's mainly because of that medium chance to guard all attacks. Again, a high chance to guard would only increase it a little bit, but a high chance to guard is obviously better than a medium chance. So at least it will be a little bit more reliable. It wouldn't be guaranteed, but it would be way more reliable. But because it's only a 30% chance, it's so unreliable that this guy can either be amazing in like red zone, like he could be so good, especially while he's stacking defense. Like against the Frieza red zone event, he would be great. You know, you're facing 5 phases. Some of them you're in there for quite a while, so you're in those for almost as long as you're in like Goku and Vegeta event back in the day when it actually was somewhat of a challenge. Especially if you're stalling and you slow down, you can stack him up a lot, especially because you need to wait for him to transform, but you can stack up a lot, especially with there being 5 phases. Frieza has so much damage reduction, he also has so much health. And then if his guard comes off, he is going to be amazing in that one. And he is going to be tanking full power Frieza, who does like 1.5, 1.6 million damage on a super incredibly well. But if his guard doesn't come off, yes, you might have stacked his defense up a decent amount enough, but because red zone does so much damage, 500k defense, 600k defense, if you're lucky enough to get it there, won't be enough. So as I said, he can either be really amazing if that medium chance to guard comes off in like an event like that, which is ideal for him against Frieza's red zone stage. But then if it doesn't, kind of a liability, which is such a shame. But we're up to 300k defense right now. There's only one attack. Again, if he was to be supered, he probably wouldn't die here. It's mainly the additionals that would be a slight problem because of the type disadvantage and because we haven't got to stack that much. If his guard is active, I mean, again, he's going to be tanking for double digits. Even if he doesn't have his guard active here, he should still be tanking relatively well, considering he has about 300k defense. But his damage output is fantastic. With how good he can be defensively, his damage output is fantastic. It's just, as I said, it's just not reliable enough. Yeah, didn't even have his guard active. 84 damage, double digits, which is exactly what you want to see. But as I said, this event, this longer event format is his bread and butter. Of course he's going to do so well here. Even though he hasn't even been able to stack up that much, he's still doing amazingly well here. It's a shame. Because I said, I do really want to try him in like the hardest premium content there is. And it's just, he's just not reliable enough. And it really lets him down. Really, really lets him down. You know, so it's kind of a shame. You know, I still don't understand why they didn't decide to bump the guard chance up from medium to high. As I said, they probably didn't do it because he does stack defense, but it's just not enough. And I don't think a high chance to guard would have made that much of a difference, even in the hardest content. Like, obviously, Dokkan doesn't want us taking easy aid units into red zone and them tearing it up. That's fine. You know, because they want us to summon for the new units. It's always been that way. That's fine. Would a high chance to guard really made that much of a difference, considering it's not guaranteed? Yes, he would add more chance to guard. It would have come off maybe a bit more frequently, but you can still also be unlucky in the same breath and the guard not come off. So it's kind of weird, like, would it have made that much of a difference? But there we go. We kind of just breezed through it. We didn't even get to stack him up that much, and he was still tanking exceptionally well. Longer events are Nameku's bread and butter, especially if his guard comes off. He's done amazingly well there. Has a great setup with LR SJ Goku, who also stacks, also has guard, guaranteed guard, especially when, of course, you get the revival off, and he has guaranteed guard at all times. He's a very, very good EZA. He's very good, do not get me wrong, but when it comes to the hardest content in the game, like Cell Max and Red Zone, he's just not reliable enough. He's not reliable enough. Unless you get lucky enough and everything clicks in like a run, then of course he can do well. But there's too much RNG attached to this guy doing well in harder content. But eventually when the run comes, and I'll upload the video. Same with any other unit that is kind of not as reliable in Red Zone and stuff. But let me know anything down in the comments. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next video, guys, and peace.